Data protection and privacy teams are under more pressure than ever with new laws, AI oversight, data breaches, and the constant expectation to do more with fewer resources.
That's why TrustArc built a modern privacy and data protection management platform powered by Arc Intelligence. It unifies your tools, automates the work that slows you down, and surfaces what matters most right when you need it.
From guided quick actions to our intelligent assistant, Ask Arc, you get credible, contextual answers backed by expert research, not generic AI guesses.
Finally, privacy that works the way privacy pros work.
Learn how TrustArc helps teams move faster with confidence at trustarc.com/serious-privacy. That's trustarc.com/serious-privacy.
You're listening to Serious Privacy, powered by TrustArc. Here are your hosts, Paul Breitbarth, Ralph O'Brien, and Dr. Kay Royal.
You know it by now. It all started in January 2020 in the desert of Arizona in a shack above the polar circle, the very first recording of the very first episode of Serious Privacy. And we would not bring it up again today if it wasn't a special episode for us. Don't worry, it's not the last episode we record, but it is number 250. And that makes us really proud. You have downloaded this almost 200,000 times from 209 countries and territories and almost 10,000 cities around the world, which makes us a truly global podcast, consistently rated in the top 3 of privacy podcasts around the world. Thank you. But as if nothing happened, my name is Paul Breitbarth.
My name is Ralph O'Brien.
And I'm Kay Royal, and welcome to Serious Privacy. Yes, we are very excited for the 250th episode. I feel like I should have a very special, unexpected question, but y'all know me, it's unexpected even to me because I look it up when you start talking. And if our fans hadn't figured that out by now, who knows? But I think there was a question. It was, y'all tell me if this is a good one. If it's not, I have a better one. What smell reminds you of a particularly good memory?
It's probably the smell of bread.
Ooh.
Bread? Yeah, bread's a good one. Yeah, bread's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cut grass.
No, it must be bread.
Cut grass. Yep, that was one. I was thinking of my mama's chicken and dumplings because I only ever had them on my birthday, so it was once a year. But bread, my junior high school, so grades 7 and 8. No, 6 and 7? No, it was 7. It was 8. No, whatever it was. Anyway, one of the middle schools there. I know what it was. It was KG. Was right next to a bread making facility. And so we would go to school in the morning and we'd go buy them straight off the factory and they would come uncut. You'd just get a big brown bag of bread. And at lunchtime, oh my God, my classes backed up to it. And all you could do was smell that wonderful bread just coming in, and now I can't have it.
No, for me, it was the bread in France when we were on vacation as a small kid, given a few coins to go fetch the French bread for breakfast. That's a really good memory. But actually, if you talk about baking in factories next to the school, where I grew up, they were baking cookies that also were used in school. So they were healthy, and then with some powdered milk in the middle that was formed into a paste somehow. For the Dutchies, it's called liga. The factory was in my city. But if they were baking, you could smell it all across the city. And just the slightly sweet smell of fresh cookies.
Oh, that's amazing.
Welcome to the 250th episode of Serious Baking, where your hosts...
Who knows? Maybe in honor of the 250th, Paul and I will actually put together a cookbook. You never know.
So are you then Paul Hollywood to give us the handshake?
So we were going to see about inviting a special guest or 2 or 5 or 20 or something, or hold this live on LinkedIn in honor of our 200. Actually, we should have hosted it live on LinkedIn. We suck, don't we? Anyway, we were going to invite guests and we didn't because we're all busy working professionals. This is why we do it, because this is how we get in our education, by helping you with your education.
Exactly.
But what do we talk about on an episode like this, right?
Let's first look back at these past 5.5 years.
5.5 years?
Ralph, what's the one thing, and you're not allowed to say the Dua Lipa bill, what is the one thing in the past 5.5 years that stands out for you in data protection?
That is so easy. Spending time with you two. There you go. That's been my highlight. I actually can't claim 250. I can only claim perhaps 50. I've been the full-time third host for only since the start of this year. And before then, I was filling in when one of you was not here. So I can't claim 250. I'm perhaps at 50 episodes. So I feel like a bit of a fraud now. But as I said, my top experience of serious privacy has been working with the two of you and getting to know the two of you. I mean, I can't think of anything else that I value more out of this whole experience. So there we go.
And on the policy side, Ralph, if you look outside the podcast, some things happening in the privacy community.
Yes.
What is then your highlight?
Or your low light?
Again, not the Dua Lipa bill.
Yeah, no, to be honest, that's a splash in the ocean. It really is. Whilst I've got some sadness in the direction the UK has taken, in perhaps being the only country to lower the standard of data protection, perhaps. So that's a big point of sadness that I have, but also looking across the globe at the increases, looking across the globe at all of the different countries that have passed some sort of data protection law that hadn't beforehand.
Yeah.
So the positives far outweigh the negatives in that there are a number of people in a number of jurisdictions which are protected in ways they never used to be. To stand out for the 5 years is the sheer number of countries that have now applied rights to the human beings that set foot there.
Very well. Kay, for you.
For me, I feel like I kind of want to follow Ralph's footsteps and say what stands out to me most in the 5.5 years of the podcast. And that is the fact that we're 5.5 years. When you and I started that, we didn't envision that. We proposed this as something completely different. Then we launched it as something different from that. And then it morphed into something completely different because the world was at risk.
Yeah.
To me, it's the fact that we're here. We're in season 6 and we're still talking about what we love to talk about. And we're still true to our roots for that. For privacy and data protection developments, for me, I think the biggest thing that has impacted my practice is, one, all the laws that have passed, but 2, the Schrems decisions, the safe harbor and the thingy and the everything from there, and the state laws being passed, as much as the ones not being passed. There have been a bunch of laws proposed that stunk, and they didn't pass, as much as there have been good ones that didn't pass. So to me, it's just the astronomical, momentum that we've seen, the movement in laws. It's almost visual. If you were to put privacy laws in some sort of color code and dot it around the world, you'd probably have all the rings of Saturn going around the world right now. The momentum has just been tremendous. And what I hate is that we don't yet have a serious privacy cookbook.
Maybe this summer we'll offer some opportunity to get one and to have it ready for the next conference.
There we go. Or at least a sticker that proclaims it is a cookbook.
I think it's a full-time job just to keep up with the news. So every time we get on and you do a week in privacy, we can fill an episode easily with just the highlights, with just the sheer amount of news and the amount of movement. And I sometimes feel like we're scratching the surface of what there is out there. And each one of those we could deep dive into and spend a whole episode on just that one story. And we're going over it in a sentence. So the sheer amount is just incredible.
That is something to think about. We're going to get back to Paul's best part and we can hold this question, but keep it on the tip there, is we have tried to react to what our fans have requested. And even when we don't do a week of privacy, to run through the headliners of the things that have happened so they don't go miss them. We did that probably 10, 15 times, I think. It didn't really go over well because every time Paul and I wanted to stop and talk about the headline and not just let it be like the thing flashing across the bottom of your screen, which if we ever do go to video, that's an idea to do. Paul, what are your highlights? What stands out to you for the past 5.5 years, other than you never thought you would be in a relationship with an American like me?
That's for sure absolutely true. And with a Brit like Ralph.
And with a Brit like Ralph, right?
We make a wonderful throuple.
And indeed, I also had not expected us to go on with this for this long. I'm surprised we are still here.
We didn't even know each other.
No, and that's still amazing that it works, whether it is online, but also in person. We've had quite a few parties and other good times that we shared in the past couple of years. We also had some lowlights that we shared with family members passing away. And also that was special that podcast family was there.
They were.
At those moments. When it comes to policy, I was going to say, yes, China was for me a big one, the Chinese PIPL that suddenly appeared and entered into effect in a couple of weeks.
It was like, bam. And listen to him calling it the PIPL.
Also the Schrems 2 decision, where we were able to do an overnight release of the podcast.
And that is what has made it really cool, is that most of the really big happenings have happened overseas, not here. And you've been able, Ralph joined us a couple of times for him, assess them before I even wake up. I wake up, we jump on a call and we record, and then we release in an hour and we're done. We're like Johnny on the spot with the hot news happening. That was really cool, right?
That was really cool. And emergency podcasts are now coming out in the political world almost every week, with everything that's going on around the world.
Yeah.
But yes, it is fun and it's really nice that we can do that. However, the other thing that really strikes me is how many people seem to be running away from data protection into the arms of artificial intelligence. When you look back at early 2018, when there were all these consultancy firms suddenly popping up saying, oh yeah, but we are GDPR experts and come to us and we'll implement GDPR for you and we know all about it and we tell you everything about it as long as you pay us lots of money.
And my eyes are rolling.
Now the same is happening with artificial intelligence.
It is.
Even the IPP is not the IPP anymore. Even the IPP has decided it's not the International Association of Privacy Professionals, it's just the IAPP. And they do AI and cybersecurity and everything else as well now.
I can't blame them for it. It makes sense.
Yeah. Is that part of a wider trend that businesses are looking at data protection as part of wider data governance?
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yes. And that the number of data protection functions is actually going down, and that a lot of big companies have decided, oh, we no longer need a chief privacy officer or a data protection officer. I joined Bella a few weeks ago on her podcast to talk about the Norwegian DPO decisions for Telenor, that if you have a voluntary DPO, you still need to meet the same requirements. And they said, oh, but we don't need a voluntary DPO, so we will withdraw, but then you also need to explain that. And the DPA actually doesn't agree that they do not need a DPO.
Right.
So those kinds of discussions in the Telenor case, it actually came to a result already and to a decision of the DPA, contentious decision, but still a decision. Whereas in many other countries and companies, it's just still happening without anybody challenging it. We've seen the examples with Google and with Microsoft and other companies where suddenly the chief privacy officer disappeared and was not immediately replaced or not at all.
Yeah, I think Stephen Dedman disappeared from Meta recently.
Others before that from Google, and they all end up with law firms in the US. So the law firms have good talent to recruit.
Yeah, true. Although I'm not getting any big offers, I'm just saying.
But you haven't resigned from your role yet, Kay.
No. I love what I do.
There is some really interesting movement going on. We've just lost Stephen Bonner here from the Information Commissioner here in the UK, who has surfaced at TikTok, which is really interesting because obviously the ICO took enforcement action against TikTok, and TikTok are appealing, and that's still ongoing. And Stephen Bonner was one of the people who was very vocal in talking about that enforcement action against TikTok. That's certainly been the undertone discussed online.
Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
Yeah, it's not the first time I've seen in Malta the head of the Maltese Commission go and become the head of privacy for Leo Vegas gambling and gaming. It's not the first time that a regulator has been poached by the private sector, and it won't be the last.
No, and I have no objections against private sector going into regulatory and regulators going into the private sector, but to move to a company where you are involved in enforcement action immediately before the move, I would think twice.
Calls into question some of the decisions made. But you know that behind the scenes, you're sitting there thinking, if you're really serious about improving it, then you hire the one that has been the most vocal against you and enact what they say to do. But still, it has a little taste of you just don't like. But no, it is. And we've seen a lot happen over the past years, and we've seen a lot not happen. So is there anything that you would bring to mind of saying the one thing you would hope would happen that didn't? I know the first thing comes to my mind, but let's see what y'all say.
Oh, you're going to talk about the U.S. federal law.
The not law, the unlaw? Yeah.
That was preempted by the Californians.
Yeah, pretty much. What did you want to see? What are y'all missing?
Oh, God.
I would like to see a new EDPS.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least confirmation that the new EDPS is Wojciech Wiewiórowski.
Yeah, that's been outstanding for quite some time, hasn't it?
There have been rumors that the Polish presidency didn't think that they could make a decision because they would be biased against the Polish candidate, and that now that Denmark has taken over the EU presidency for the next 6 months, a decision could be coming. But I'm not so sure whether that will actually happen.
But Paul, I was going to joke that you were looking for that white smoke to happen, but that reminds me of another big thing that happened. We have the first American Pope. I know that has nothing to do with privacy, but...
Yeah. Though realistically lived their most of their life in Peru, as I understand it. But actually, for me, the one thing I really wish had come in that didn't come in was the e-privacy reg.
Yes. New cookie rules, new communication secrecy laws. That would be really welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't affect me in the UK now anyway because of Brexit, but let's face it, it would have been good to see.
That was a big thing that happened.
Yeah.
Brexit was a really big thing that happened that we all lived through, not to mention we lived through building houses too and renovating still.
Yeah.
Brexit was a pretty big thing. It's been really heartwarming to me.
COVID.
That wasn't heartwarming at all. But to be fair, that we're still here, right? I never actually had COVID. The times that I thought I did, it was not. So that was interesting. But we also protected ourselves very well, given my lupus and everything. But
I caught it after the fact. Yeah. Not when the actual COVID was going on and everything was shut down, but when everything was relaxed and then we all started going out and mingling again.
There's a lot of people still getting it now.
Yeah.
There are people getting it now. It's not considered as deadly because, thank God, the vaccines and everything seem to work to weaken it. But there are people that are going to have lifelong complications from it, people that had it and survived. My daughter had a major pregnancy complication from it that almost killed her. When you're pregnant and have COVID, your uterus can harden. There's a lot of lifelong complications that are going to happen from people that we're going to be the generation with the forgotten years. That's what we are.
Yes, we skipped about 2. And there are also still things happening this week. The big, beautiful Bill Act thingy that you have in the US has made it over another hurdle, but the US Senate has been wise. They may not have been wise in adopting the legislation, I don't know, but they've been wise enough to take out the AI moratorium for state legislation for the next 10 years. So it can very well be that we still will get AI legislation in the US unless the House will say, no, we want it back in. And then the US can do the same ping pong match like we had in the UK between the Commons and the Lords.
Right.
Yeah. I saw, was it Tom Kemp, the head of the Californian privacy regulator?
Yep.
Has been very vocal on LinkedIn about his approval that they're able to pass AI legislation. And actually, I'm surprised how vocal he's actually been, considering the state of things in the US, about welcoming.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, about welcoming some of the more positive changes. So.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. We had Tom on this podcast. He was on several other podcasts. He's pretty outspoken. He's one of those that they knew what they were getting into when they brought him in. Let's just be honest.
I think it's helpful. The head of an enforcement authority is a bit outspoken.
But yeah, what was your favorite episode? I'm sorry, I'm going back to 250 episodes reminiscing. I'm not going to get away from it. I am stuck. I am a dog with a bone.
You don't want to talk about what's happening in the world, do you?
I don't want to talk about what's happening in the world. No, I really don't. Not this week. I'm like, no, I'm over that. No, seriously, we can. But y'all know I'm never over it. But I want to go back to something that Ralph said in the beginning. about us being busy working professionals and that we do this. I can't tell you how many times I've had people ask why. And I know y'all get this as well. Why do you speak so much? Why do you do a podcast? Why do you write so many articles and things like that? And I haven't done as much writing lately, given the textbook that came out. But why? Because if you're head down doing your job, you're going to be behind in 2 weeks. You have to be actively engaged with other privacy professionals, with what's going on with the law and with companies and enforcement, or you're going to be behind. And I know one time I interviewed for a job and I asked them at the end, I don't ask what does success look like in 30, 60, 90, because I don't care if I'm there, it's going to be a success. What I ask is, what does failure look like? So the woman's response was, oh, it would be someone that's doing a lot of speaking and going to conferences and trying to be out there. And I'm like, you just realized we just entered the interview. She went, I recognize that as I said it. I'm like, yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm never going to be someone that's just going to put my head down and get the job done, because I can't stand doing a half-assed job just because you're busy. You have to be engaged.
Yes.
I've been told I'm too outspoken before, definitely. Some of the favorite episodes I think we've done are episodes that didn't involve data protection. If you can remember, we actually did one on work-life balance. We did one on what data protection professionals do on their day off. Cosplay. Some of the episodes we've done on sort of self-care, and actually work-life balance, and actually the things that we do when we're not doing data protection have actually really stood out to me, because I think, yes, we can talk about data protection every day, but we're all humans. We've all got lives outside of work, and trying to balance those things.
Do we? Do I have a life?
Wow. Yeah, okay.
I have a puppy. I'm not sure I have a life, but I have a puppy. I have a house. I guess that counts.
Yeah. You've got a husband and family.
Do we? The question has come up, and we talked about it before. If you were to win here in the U.S., it's the Powerball, the $180 million, $1.7 billion Powerball. What would you do? And I've had people challenge me, would I still do privacy? Yeah, I would. I'd probably start a think tank, but that's what I would do. I really am passionate about this, and I love it. And doing the podcast has really broadened my circle of friends, I guess we could call them, in the privacy world, because we've talked to people in all different continents. I think the only one we haven't talked to is Antarctica. And that's still a goal of mine.
I think that's fair. Your previous goal was to talk to somebody about church privacy. And it's good that you have a new goal.
I need a new goal, right?
For me, if I look at the favorite episodes, that usually when we have regulators on, which for me is always special because it feels somewhat like home. The regulatory community, as I think you all know, is the part of the privacy community where I feel most at home. But it's also, I think it's very special if the supervisory authorities themselves are willing to share their views on how they look at enforcement action they have done, how they look at the developments in the field. I know we've had Helen Dixon, we've had Wojciech Wierowski, we've had Emma Martins from Guernsey at the time. We will be getting Brent Honan also from Guernsey, who has confirmed that he will join us for a recording soon. We've had Liz Denham join us, who's had the chair of multiple DPAs around the world. So it's that those people are willing to join us to talk about what's happening in the wider community, I think is really good and really positive.
I can't agree more. The fact that the regulator wants to engage with a wider audience, that wants to engage with data protection professionals specifically. We're seeing a lot about regulators engaging with a whole economy regulator is the one that I keep hearing, where they want to engage with business and listen to the problems of business and how they can better regulate in a way that business will accept. But actually a regulator who takes their time to listen to data protection professionals is always in my heart.
I think you should do one and not leave out the other. It's important also for supervisory authorities to understand what the business community is doing, what the business community needs, but that doesn't mean that they just need to say, oh, whatever it takes, we'll give the business community.
Right, no. But that brought back the Nordic Privacy Arena, where this topic came up as well, who invited Paul and I to do the opening session on day 2 to cover it as the podcast, which is brilliant. And then we mentioned IAPP. They should allow us to do it on stage there. Next thing we know, they have a podcaster on stage as a keynote too, which we can't blame on this New York Times. It's not like I can compete with that, but hey. But also, we've had U.S. regulators on, and I think we had a Canadian regulator on as well, and those are always really good. And the great thing was getting the behind-the-scenes look when the recorder's not running. They all gave us a lot of their opinions and hopes and dreams and nightmares when we weren't recording them, which was always really good to have that information. Not that we would ever disclose it. But then do y'all remember when Paul got his in-house job, and for the first time he had at Nimity, he wasn't a regulator, but it was different. He became a hands-on data protection officer, and that was quite the year.
It's been quite the 3.5 years.
But I meant that year you first did it. It was quite the year. He broadened his education very much.
I stick to my statement. It's been quite the 3.5 years because I continue learning, continue developing. And
that is true.
Working with business teams as a partner instead of just as an advisor is indeed very different than, not necessarily different than what I had expected, but it is different than when you are on the outside looking in and telling people, hey, this is how you can look at it and this is how it could work. So it's been a learning curve, but it's been a very welcome learning curve because I think overall I have a much better understanding also on the impossibilities of data protection law. And that's also why I pushed back a little on you saying that the supervisory authorities should not look at the business perspective. That's what they also should do, because the legislation and also the guidance too often departs from a perfect world scenario.
Yeah.
And there is no perfect world.
There is no perfect world.
GDPR doesn't live on its own. It's an integral part of compliance. It's an integral part of the legislation that companies have to deal with. And that doesn't mean that GDPR decisions will always be the final decisions. Sometimes data protection decisions are just not as important as the key business decision related to the primary process.
Yeah.
I get that. I think what's interesting looking at things for a full compliance, actually, again, a new development we've seen is things like competition authorities, the Bundeskartellamt decision, for example, when data protection has been used in decision from other regulatory authorities.
Yeah.
So when, especially in competition law, but we're starting to see it take its place in a whole suite of things when you get Data Governance Act and
Digital Services, Digital Markets, the EU AI Act. And that also means that supervision is becoming a mess.
Yeah.
It was fairly straightforward with 1 or maybe 16, 17 supervisory authorities per EU member state.
Right.
Most of them have 1. Germany has 17. Okay, that's Germany with their federal system. But it was fairly obvious who to go to. With DSA, that has already become more complex because there also the Consumer and Markets Authority start to play a role. And with the EU AI Act, it's going to be a complete mess because every member state takes it as a free-for-all. And the first list of potential supervisory authorities here in the Netherlands, I think there were 12 different organizations on that list who all would oversee part of the EU AI Act. That's not going to be helpful.
And in all, one of the things that I've been disappointed about is despite all this movement in privacy law, the corporate world still seems to think cybersecurity is much more sexier than privacy. They don't even know what we do, right? The cybersecurity law is part of what we do because most of the cybersecurity laws are frankly data protection and privacy laws, or the requirements around them are that. And so it's constantly working in the field of cybersecurity law and working on that, but yet the cybersecurity technicians themselves are considered much more sexier than the privacy attorneys. One day our time will come, or we're just going to be in the shadows making things happen and not getting a whole lot of board attention. And as y'all know, I talk about broad experience, not my experience. My company is very good with the board and the audit committee, but there's a lot out there who don't. They only want to hear from cybersecurity.
As somebody who has been to both cybersecurity and data protection conferences, I can wholeheartedly say that data protection professionals are much sexier than cybersecurity professionals.
And certainly much more fun.
Certainly much more fun. No doubt about it. But we'll probably start seeing more and more at the IAPP conferences or at any of the privacy conferences that we go to, because they are becoming more and more entwined. My book is the data privacy and security case law book.
Mm-hmm.
So they are going to be more and more entwined, and it's going to require that either people develop both skill sets or they learn to work together really well.
Also, that is good. So while we wrap up, what is your hope for the next 250 episodes in terms of privacy developments?
Terms of privacy development. I want a federal law. I want a U.S. federal data privacy and protection law and cybersecurity and AI and whatever else they want to throw in there. And I want one that has meat and is meaningful and it gives substantive rights to individuals and actually has an impact on how corporations, because America has some of the largest corporations in the world, actually treat personal data. That's what I want.
And then not just for Americans, but for everybody?
For everyone. I want it to be
with a private right of action?
Yep. Oh, I'd love to see a private right of action, but that'll probably kill it. But the plaintiffs' attorneys out there in class action lawyers, they'll find a way to make something work. Good God, they're using the trap and trace laws for chatbots. They'll find a way to make something work. But yeah, so private right of action is probably not going to happen. But that didn't stop laws like HIPAA from growing teeth and actually being impactful.
Sure.
I don't think that it's necessary, but I do think it's necessary that the U.S. grow up, put on his big girl panties, and actually have a privacy and data protection law.
Agreed. Yeah. I'd like to see a reversal of the trend here of the death by 1,000 cuts, the slow erosion of data protection over here. To me, what I would really like to see is recognition that it's not data protection versus innovation. Yeah, that the GDPR doesn't say no, right? That the GDPR says, yes, of course you can, just don't hurt people. Right. And, what business out there really, if you're a business out there that's seriously going, oh, I don't like the GDPR, then you're a business that's saying, I like hurting people. And that's essentially what you're saying, right? Because all it really says is don't hurt people. So for me, I want to see a reversal of this idea of data protection versus innovation. I want to say that you can innovate and have data protection, and having data protection will lead to greater customer confidence, greater adoption of technology, greater confidence on behalf of the consumer. So I just want to see a reversal of that thought process.
Yeah. And I love what you're saying. And let me take it one step further. The GDPR was passed in order to promote the free flow of data. So companies can share data and get insights and metrics and analytics and develop stuff with it while protecting the individuals. But companies tend to be taking the tactic that, oh no, if I let you use de-identified data, then that's too much. You're too loose with our data. I can't protect our people.
That might still be true, but indeed, the GDPR is enabling legislation. I just earlier this week given another introduction to data protection to a group of students in the DPO course. And also there, I keep stressing GDPR is enabling legislation. It's there to let data flow. And as long as you play by the rules, there is an awful lot that you can do, but you need to be aware. But if things go wrong, what I would really like supervisory authorities here in the EU and around the world to do more is imposing processing bans, even if temporarily, for companies to better their lives.
And be transparent about their decisions.
Yeah, but that is a sanction that is completely underused, and it is so effective to force organizations to actually move in the right direction. We've seen it in
the
Malta,
US,
where the land register had a data breach at the start of GDPR, where the processing ban helped also to make an end to the data breach. We've seen it when ChatGPT first came on the European market, when the Italians said, oh, stop, we first want to assess this. In the meantime, no processing of personal data. So it can be a very effective measure.
The FTC here in the US, funny enough, has used it lots of times. If they find that a company had improper controls in place, especially under COPPA, they have ordered the companies to get rid of the data and to get rid of any inferences or data they gained from the data.
Yeah. Also, that should happen more.
So knock the US all you want. We got some good things, right?
Oh, you do. So we'll see during the next 250 episodes whether any of this will become true. Speak to you then.
See you at 500.
Bye, y'all.
That was Serious Privacy.
This wraps up our podcast for this week. Please do share the episode with your friends and colleagues because we love to get more listeners. And join the conversation on LinkedIn or on Blue Sky. You'll find us under Serious Privacy on both platforms. You'll find Kay as Heart of Privacy, Ralph as IGR O'Brien, and myself as Europol B. Until next week, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye, y'all.
If you're a data protection or privacy professional, you already know the pressure. Non-stop regulatory change, AI oversight, internal demands, and the expectation to somehow stay ahead of it all. And the old patchwork of tools just isn't cutting it anymore.
No. That's why TrustArc created a modern privacy management platform powered by Arc Intelligence. The TrustArc platform brings your workflows, evidence, research, tasks, and applications all together in one unified and intelligent workspace so you don't waste time digging, clicking, or context switching.
With Ask Arc, your privacy assistant, you can ask plain language questions about laws, jurisdictions, or even your own program data and get credible, cited answers based on NIMBY research and more than 1,000 global laws. It's explainable, transparent, and purpose-built for data protection and privacy.
So if you need to add a vendor, create a cookie banner, or start an assessment, quick actions take formally complex tasks, turn them into bite-sized guided workflows to save you time.
It's a platform that thinks like you, works like you, and helps you move faster with confidence, whether you're a seasoned DPO or you're just getting started.
See how modern privacy gets done. Explore Arc at trustarc.com/serious-privacy. That's trustarc.com/serious-privacy.